or something else?
So yeah, I'm going to actually talk to you about that. I've got Claude Code within Curo
Cool.
to kind of see how that works.
Nice. All right, well, we are now live. Hello, everyone, and welcome. I'm Dan Lorenc, and I'm joined by Cole today. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Cole Horsman, Field CTO, Sunry Security.
Awesome. Today, we're going to be doing some vibe coding, everyone's favorite hobby these days. Pull up your screen, show some of the ideas you're working on.
Sure. Yeah. Let's see here. And window. All right. So can you guys see this, the IDE, Curo?
Not yet. I think they might have to pop it live backstage.
All right, let me get this going.
Just message them.
There we go.
Still not coming up yet. We just tested this in the background too. We got on.
Share screen.
There we go. All right, we are live. Inception.
Right. Okay, and you can see the entire window. So if I do this, you can still see?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay. You got Curo on the screen.
Awesome.
Okay. Yeah, so and we can kind of run through the demo, but I've been doing this for a little while, kind of gone through ebbs and flows of levels of interest. Usually I find something that's of utility, I guess, something that I'm trying to build, something that solves a problem or for fun. I built a few different projects from Salesforce visibility tools to my wife and I are kind of building this, what's for dinner app, etc. But today I kind of just want to run through, I guess, where I started and kind of where
what is for dinner?
What's that? Yeah. So actually, I'll just do a quick segue into that. So that's the age-old question. She asked me at 4 o'clock, what's for dinner? I don't know at 4 o'clock. She gets frustrated. So that's basically we're trying to build like a calendar app that just goes through and it, kind of builds an inventory of what you have versus, what you need to go buy at the store, builds out a calendar for, what we're having Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday for lunch, et cetera, so that we basically don't have to ask or answer that question.
Nice.
A lot of people can relate to that one.
Yeah.
That one's actually nearly in the App Store. Got to work through a few of their hoops, but as soon as we get that going, we'll have our first app in the App Store. So it's kind of a cool one where she's she's project manager, director of development for a startup locally. So she's got that experience, that sort of organizational experience that she's better at, that complements some of my tech background. So anyway, that's just something that we do for fun. So it's something that we found as a hobby together, which is kind of cool.
Nice.
Anyway, so through all of that, we kind of started with, I don't even remember. She's on this webinar somewhere, but we started with I think probably Cursor, because I was playing with it at work at the time. And then we kind of got through and started realizing that, maybe it wasn't as good as we thought it was, went through some ebb and flow. Then we realized that, more of the spec-driven development, more of the putting a little bit of thought into the outcome first and planning a little bit more was probably for a tool like this. But anyway, that's kind of where we led. We've gone from Cursor to Curo to, I guess Claude Code has been a constant throughout all of these. So I just really quick, kind of interactive. What has been your experience with those? I know the predominant is Claude Code, but have you had a good experience with any of the other IDE or AI assisted code IDEs?
I think the closest I've gotten to some of the other ones is doing web development. And it's not to say that Claude Code is bad at that or anything. It's just some of the more integrated ones, like say Lovable or something like that more bake in the front end development flow with your IDE and all of that, tend to work pretty well. But for all the back end stuff I do, Claude Code is the way to go. Claude Code plus VS Code, my normal IDE. Yeah.
That's a good point. I haven't really done much with Lovable or even Windsurf or anything like that. I've kind of stuck to the other primary, what you call the back end ones. I guess what's the major difference of that? Are they more focused on consumer, more front end stuff, or?
Yeah, I've seen some setups people have gotten with Cloud Code, like with the Playwright MCP server and stuff, so it can actually go operate a browser, like, you know, load localhost, get a screenshot of the page, and kind of iterate that way. Whenever I'm trying to do anything like that, I'm copy pasting console logs back in, or I'm taking screenshots and explaining to Claude what's not working on the website. So some of those fully browser-based, like Lovable or Replit or a couple of those other ones, are pretty good for just making front-end apps because it's running right in that browser with you.
Okay.
But yeah, I have heard of people getting it all set up with like MCPs, where Cloud Code knows how to like work the browser and, you know, see what you're seeing, so you're not just copy pasting console logs. Every time I do that, I feel like the old days when you're in ChatGPT, copy pasting code to and from the window, telling it what errors you got and iterating that way, which was, yeah, it worked, but so much worse than, you know, this fully modern Cloud Code that works with set and grep and knows how to read files.
That's hilarious that you said like the old days, like already, yeah. And that was, I think, one of the questions I have in the agenda too, is that when you talk about I guess and maybe it's preference, but if you talk about browser-based like ChatGPT versus IDE, and one of the comments I put in there, like, if I never had to leave an IDE, and that MCP server Playwright, I think that you mentioned, I've messed with that as well. If I never had to leave an IDE and I could have like a little browser window within here, that's like, I haven't found that situation yet, but that would be ideal.
Yeah.
Vice versa. I'm not sure which one it was. One of them, one of the IDEs was a little bit like you could translate back and forth. Maybe it was Codex, where I could go in and basically it would be developing in the back end. I could be basically developing from my phone on an airplane and say, oh, I want to make an update to the repository. Go do that. When I get back and when I land, I want to see what happened, basically.
Yeah, those the fully agentic ones, or whatever you want to call them, they're pretty good, but it really depends on what your development environment looks like and what tools you have to get installed and set up for them. If you have like a good dev containers set up or something like that, then they work really well. They can just run in a loop and kind of, you know, PR in equals PR out, moving on with your life.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right, I'll get into this a little bit. It's a little bit more about me. I've been in the cloud engineering space early on, several years ago. And then I kind of just got into a cloud security position, needed that to be filled. More dedicated, more identity focused. I was contracting for, a company that we were trying to build a greenfield AWS deployment. So a lot of the work that I do, and I guess this example that's on the screen, was kind of baked into like this idea of a security flywheel. So clean code coming out, and then continuous analysis. So using checkoff to scan code, semgrep to scan code, and essentially just get clean, either serverless infrastructure, containers, etc. I know that's your space, but like just making sure that I get something clean coming out, and then a continuous analysis of things that have been deployed, so I can see or essentially pick up CSPM findings. Like, to me, like the visibility, that's great, but I don't really spend a lot of time on seeing problems. I want to be solving problems. So that's why I looked at Prowler, Checkoff, and those kinds of things, because I can get sort of on a small level, you can get a good scan of what's going on, and then you can create new rules. So if I do see a misconfiguration that happens in AWS, I can write a new rule in Checkoff to scan for infrastructure as code issues and things like that. So that's kind of what I've been building, and also like using a Terraform, I guess, analysis within this tool to scan my plan and then look at what the permissions that I would need to deploy this. I'm in the identity space trying to find a lesser right size privilege, if you will, but also like obviously keep guardrails there for development teams, but also make it not suck, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So that's what this project is about. I started down this path a while ago. Obviously, and maybe you've run into this too, when I got so far, I started to add so many things that it just became this thing that the more things that you try to add, the more that it has to analyze, the worse the outcome is when you try to like build. Has that been your experience, or how did you, I guess, fix that?
Yes. In short, there are ways to fix it. And it's like kind of like what you said early on. If you put the work in up front, you get a much better experience. That's even more true here. Like if you set up a repository with real CI that you're iterating in, not just doing everything locally and forgetting to even commit stuff, and you build those guardrails into it, then you can get to like, a flywheel effect here too, where, everything you're doing is running through CI. You're not introducing regressions. If you want to add new CI checks, you're adding those. And you can do everything faster, but you can't just, forget about the basic stuff that, is good development everywhere else. The problem is you're moving so fast writing code that sometimes you can just get too excited and too happy and skip those other basics. But if you try to think of like, an actual team-based development flow where you're on a real GitHub repo, you have GitHub Actions running in CI, you have end-to-end tests, you have integration tests and all that. So like you can be confident that whatever the agent is committing isn't going to introduce a regression. Once you get that kind of set up, then you can go turbocharge down the middle. But yeah, every time you like get too excited and you skip a couple steps, all of a sudden it's like you added one feature, broke the last 10. Now you're back debugging and you're spending all your time there, and then you throw the whole project away and start over.
Yep. So that last part is exactly right. To where I got into this project is it's become such a conglomerate that I'm like, all right, I've learned quite a bit from setting this up. As you can see, I've set up the specs that I wanted. I mean, and that is a good thing about Kiro, that it just kind of lays it out in that format. Not really a plug for Kiro. It's pretty expensive, but anyway, doing this, and you can build this within any of these AI assisted coding agents. But I've done a lot of this work. I can basically get a summary of this and then go tell Claude, let's start over. Let's clean slate. Yeah. Here's the structure that I want. You know what I'm trying to get at. Let's do this in a simplified way.
And there's nothing wrong with that flow. Spiking has been a concept in agile development forever. You go write a prototype, forget all of that stuff, learn a bunch that first time, and then don't make that mistake the second time you go back through it. A lot of the throwaway work like feels wasted and feels broken and feels silly, but it's an important part of the learning experience. And like, have this ability to go build the full app, 3 different prototypes, 3 different ways, and figure out what the best design actually is, and then go back and do it the right way the final time.
Yeah, agree. I think I've taken a lot. I know the MCP servers I like. The agent hooks are like based on good principles. Like, hey, you're an AWS architect. You're supposed to know anything about AWS. Recently, I've gotten into GCP a little bit. So, hey, convert everything that I have to GCP. And that was a side project that I did. Code quality and all these things. Just a lot of good principles that are, I think, from my perspective, poorly executed, that I learned a lot. Like I said, it's a scrap project. Learned a lot, go build it the right way. All right. Yeah, you're spot on.
Yeah. Well, cool. You jump in and try something here? Do you want to start something new, play around with this one?
Yeah, let me grab something else. Let's just start something new. I think this one's just going to be a little bit of a mess here. So if I'm going like from new, for people who are on the phone, and like my wife on the phone, who's maybe not as technical as I am, where would you start? Would you start with I can just bring up VS Code and just maybe start a new project here. I mean, we've done Claude Code. She's very familiar with Claude Code. She understands structure of that. If I want to build like an IAC generator, or I don't know a better example of IAC generator maybe, but I don't know. Let me just start there. Just see what the outcome is of this versus if we do put a little bit of planning into it and then try to build something. Let's see. I maybe just test the outcome of both of those.
For a command line tool, is that what you're thinking of here?
Yeah. Yep.
One trick I like to do, and it seems to work pretty well, is start a readme.md like in the repository.
Yep. And
just sketch out a few of the commands. Like you could just write it in Markdown, like new file, readme.md, and describe like what the CLI should do. What are the commands? What are the input and output of each one? And you just do a few of them, and then you ask it to review that. Suggest a couple more, like one at a time, so it starts to get a feel for what you want the whole project to do. And go README first. You talk about like spectrum development. For a CLI, README's README first. README is the spec.
Okay. Let me see here. So in here, go through and do.
So I would just like in the IDE itself, just create a README.
Okay. Yeah. Where did my file explorer go here? Oh, here we go. Let's do this. So I suppose I could just. Do you ever you still do the? Can you create a?
I just do all this part in the IDE. Yeah. So just, put like the, pound sign just to mark the title, like name the tool at the top of this. Cause you're going to save this as readme.md and then call how to open it. Yeah. Like this started in here instead of writing the prompt, just, if you pretend this is already written and it's up on GitHub, this is the README that people are going to find when they browse the repository.
Okay. All right.
You have a name for it?
Not really yet. Let me see. Just let me put a little description in here.
Cool. All right. So go down. Let's name the. Go down one more line and now do 2 pound signs.
Oh yeah.
Just type usage. And then there's like the 3 backticks to indicate that it's going to be code.
Oh, yeah. Let's see here. Nervous.
Sorry, the thing next to the 1 on an Apple keyboard. Yeah, without the right under that, just without the shift.
3.
Yeah, cool. Now new line. Oh yeah, you can write bash or whatever, but I usually skip that part. Yeah. So what do you want the CLI to be called? You kind of have to name it now.
Yeah. I don't know. Terraform. That's already taken. I know, but
that's fine.
Yeah, whatever. We'll get through.
Yeah. Now space, and what's the first command? Generate or something?
Yeah, that'll work.
And then does it take files? How's this thing gonna work?
So yeah, I think the idea was plain text, or I guess just natural language. If I want to go build, kind of like back to that previous project, if I'm gonna do, I don't know, just some sort of Salesforce dashboard or something like that, or some kind of dashboarding tool, maybe your Prowler dashboarding tool, creates Terraform files based on the infrastructure that's needed. So if I need to use these 2 instances, it's going to create Terraform for EC2, or if GCP is a better fit, then I'm going to create something with GCP and the Terraform that will create a GCP file.
Okay, so it's going to take plain English.
Yep.
Okay, cool. So maybe do like -p for the prompt, and then put quotes. So like give an example.
Okay. Oh, like you're okay.
Yeah.
Let's see. Jeez. Okay. Is that what you're talking about? Like,
yeah. And then it's going to save this as a file.
Okay.
Is that not? Yeah. Sorry. So you can save this as readme.md. So yeah, like Control S or Command S or whatever. You're on a Mac or Windows?
Yeah, I'm on a Mac, but yeah, there we go.
Yeah. So just name that readme.md. Cool. Yeah. Save that. Cool. And then this command, the output, is it going to save this to like an HCL file or something for Terraform?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. So maybe just pass like in that example, then pass like -o to name the file.
Like right here on this line?
Yeah. Space, and then bucket.hcl, something like that. Cool. So yeah, now go down and that command, or yeah, just a couple backticks now. This is probably good enough. Cool. One more maybe. All right.
Now for
okay.
So .htl, I mean, I guess I would probably generate .tf.
Or yeah, .tf. Sorry. Yeah. So yeah, just change that part. Cool. Now go down and type. So now let's do like design. And I have to add some rules in here. Yeah, like I want to design. So this is going to be AI based, right?
Yep.
I'm guessing because yeah, it's going to take plain text. So I just like to add a list of bullets here. So like bullet 1, like You don't need those ticks.
Oh, yeah, right.
Yeah, just like start up a asterisk for a bullet. Use the Claude API. Yeah. To generate these. Yeah. Follow all security best practices.
So it's going to pull whatever security best practices that I guess Claude thinks are security best practices.
And we could always make a list of security best practices somewhere if we want to make sure it's going to catch them. Cool. This is probably enough now to get started with Claude. So so from the README, any other design things you think I should know before we get started? Multi-cloud, I guess that's already going to be handled at the Terraform level.
Yeah, multi-cloud. I guess I don't know if it's. I mean, if you were going to pull in a security best practices from an external source, you could look at something online. I guess probably something like that, or something like that.
Cool. So there's one other trick I like to do for stuff like this, where you're going to call an external API. Oh, really quick before we switch tabs, what programming language do you want to write this in?
I'm usually building stuff in Python, I suppose.
Okay. Yeah, so add that here under design. Just say use Python. Do you have a package manager you like? I always tell it to use UV.
No, that works.
Okay, yeah, use UV for package management. Cool. Okay, so then one other thing I like to do, open up your browser now and go to Claude, search like Anthropic Claude API or something, and then pull that up. Anthropic has this really nice feature where it'll give you a markdown version of all of the docs.
What was it, Claude what?
Just search Claude API, Anthropic, something like that, docs.
All right.
Yeah. Okay, so let's click on, Claude Docs Home API reference. Perfect. So look around for whatever has the actual, Claude API on the right.
Oops.
I think it's called the Messages API or just Claude API maybe. Oh, okay. So this just tells you what's supported where. Okay, maybe client SDKs on the left. Maybe there's Python docs. Yeah, cool. What's the best way? Yeah, just click that. This isn't what I was expecting, but grab this GitHub repo link, just drop that into the README and say use this API,
okay.
Yeah,
right here in the bullets.
Yeah, just say use this client library. Cool. All right, so now save this and let's get down to Claude at the bottom. So just to start, I would say review.
Really quick. So what would be the difference here in doing this here, I guess, in a long form rather than just building it in like a spec with like Kira or whatever that I had here? Just curious.
Oh, did you already have a spec for this and I missed it?
Well, no, not from scratch, but just for like future reference. Like, is it better to do it this way, easier, or is it just
probably not? It keeps it all in source control. If you were going to set up a GitHub repository and get commit them and stuff, I don't know if Kiro has a way to do that too.
Okay.
Yeah, and then like the docs become the guide too, so you're kind of just maintaining it all in one place. It tends to work pretty well for CLIs. So yeah, down at the bottom it's a review at readme.md in Claude, or sorry, in your Claude.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. And if you do the perfect. Now say we're going to design this first. I would just write that whole thing out. Like we're going to design this first.
Oh,
yeah. Yeah.
I don't have to spell
Cool.
check.
So now say new line, so I shift enter. Oops.
I did hit shift. That has never worked for a Claude for me.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
It works for me in a normal terminal, but yeah, okay. I don't really use the VS Code terminal much.
Probably maybe at end line here. I don't know.
That's fine. You can just put a period in space. We won't get too long. Download now. Say download the Python SDK and research how to use it as well. Yeah, cool. Now press enter. Yeah, let's go. So it's going to get a rough understanding of what you're trying to do, and then it's going to figure out, how to best call the Claude API to do that.
What? Okay.
Yep. Cool.
I like the task list thing. That was something that came later, but the task list I think has helped me in using these.
Yeah. It's been around for a while, but you used to have to tell it to make a task list and mark off its progress, and now they've tuned it so it does that on its own.
All right. What personal projects are you working on, Dan, or otherwise? What are the big projects you're working on?
Yeah. Lately, I've just been playing around with data analysis. You mentioned querying Salesforce data. We've got a bunch of company stuff slurped into a giant BigQuery, usage logs across our products, our Salesforce data, our accounting data, a bunch of stuff that way. And so I built this it's just a repo, but it understands the schemas of all of those just by telling Claude to, research the schemas and check which data is where. And so it's got a bunch of, table.md docs, one for every table that we're looking at in BigQuery. And then it's kind of like this self-describing prompt system where I'll run an analysis and it'll give me the results in Markdown so I can copy them into a spreadsheet or something like that. But the way I've got it set up, it writes down its methodology at the bottom of everyone. So we'll do the analysis, give you the data, explain what it did. And then at the bottom, it gives itself enough instructions to redo it later if you need to. So it's almost like
interesting
plain language SQL queries. Where you can run something once, you watch it a couple times the first time, you tell it, oh, you use this field, not that field, different ways to do joins until you get the analysis right. And then it just documents all of it. So the next time you just take one of these and you say, run me another version of this report. And it's much faster because it saves its work from the previous time.
So have you experimented, I guess, with Olama locally or anything like that for some of that analysis to kind of keep the workload, I guess, local and maybe more efficient, more cost effective, or have you done anything like that?
Not yet. The new Claude, the new version of Sonnet is way cheaper than Opus used to be, and it's better. So it's crazy. Had a couple of days where my Opus bills were pretty high, but now it's negligible again. It's probably about the same as the BigQuery bill when I'm running this stuff.
Okay, it looks like it wants me to take a.
Would you like me to? Yeah. So
that's usually my answer. Yeah.
So scroll up a bit. What else did it write above there?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Okay, so it's got some more. Before you jump in, it's usually better to tell it to write down a few more things in the repository, just because this way you're saving work in the repo in case the context gets too long. Say write a super short and concise design.md.
Okay.
So I tell it to do that next. Say before starting, write a super short and concise design.md. If you don't tell it to make it super short and concise, you get a novel.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Yeah, cool.
Like that?
Yep.
Cool.
And then something I've noticed, and it's probably true here too, it's kind of ironic in a lot of ways. The models are pretty good at calling third-party libraries, but a lot of times the versions they know about and know how to call are a couple years old because that's what it was trained on. So before we jump in and tell it to start using this API, I guess it's a little ironic because it's the Claude API. You would think that Claude would know how to call the Claude API. But just to be safe, I tell it to, go also write a, document explaining how to call the latest versions of the API that we reviewed to kind of force that to be fresh in its context. So it doesn't make a ton of mistakes trying to call old methods or things that don't exist anymore.
So use like a latest or something like that.
So you gotta say yes first down there. Do you wanna? Yeah. Okay.
No, why?
Yeah.
Structure flow features ready to start implementation, and you are. All right, was that in this line, Dan? Sorry.
Yeah. Okay. So did that part finish?
Yep.
Cool. Now, if you wanted to, and this was a real project, you could go, review that design and change it and stuff like that. But we're just vibing today, so let's assume that it was right. Yep. Okay. So next, I'll say write a usage.md for the Claude. What was it? The API SDK for the Claude SDK.
Yep.
Ensuring you're looking at the latest version of the library.
This brings back memories of, I guess, paired programming back in several years ago.
We're both paired with Claude.
Right. It's a little more fun this way, I guess. Back in the day, it was a little awkward and I don't know, a little slower. This is definitely faster. Let's see. Claude code. Guess while it's doing this, I'm just looking through our agenda here to see what else I missed. Oh, do you weight rules? Like if you are, I think I've done on some projects where I've said, well, this rule first and kind of made like a top 10 and then put them in order and told it to go in order. Like you must use least privilege or something like that, or security best practices and then put them in order. Have you ever weighted any rules?
Not really. I've written sub-agents. That's pretty cool. Have you done one of those?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Where you just put a couple of them and you say, you're a security reviewer agent, come review this stuff, that kind of thing.
Well, that's what I was getting at with these. The agent hooks over here, and why I like Kiro is because you can build an architect, you can build an engineer, you can do it on a, if a file changes, you can run it automatically.
Yeah.
The digital librarian's kind of key because if you make a bunch of edits, go update the README because you just changed 10 files, the whole structure could have changed. So I love this part of Kiro because it organizes differently, kind of makes it a lot more user friendly. But again, you can achieve the same results by doing this this way as well.
Yeah, you have the there's a /agents command here in Claude Code to build those agents. I haven't played around with the hooks too much. I've tried them a couple times, but yeah, the one to like update docs, I typically just do that in the code. So if there's a section of code that's like the API, I add comments around that says whenever you change this, also change the docs.
Oh, yeah.
And then the agent sees that. You're kind of like using prompt injection too.
Right.
To get the results you want.
Okay, so it must be on the task list here. Done, created usage, latest model, ready to start building when you are set up. So I suppose we're on that last one. So let's go.
Some other things, like if I'm really just going in that prototype YOLO mode and I know it's just an experiment, you can tell Claude that, because other times we'll get carried away and we'll start trying to do all these security best practices for you that you might not care about right now. Like if I'm building something and I'm just testing it in a local Kubernetes cluster or something like that, it'll start setting up RBAC and network policies and all these other YAML files that, they're important for production, but I don't need those and pod security policies and stuff just to set up a little Go app locally. So you can tell it, this is strictly for prototyping, skip mutual TLS and
right.
OAuth, and like, yeah, I'm just going to call the API on localhost. Don't worry about setting up, API keys for me.
Right. I've done it. So one of the examples that I did, I built something like that where it is a prototype, and I was using an AWS sandbox. So it was just a, throwaway account, whatever. But I also wanted to simulate real data, like find security findings in my AWS account. So it got really confused on, hey, I'm doing demo data versus, hey, I'm doing a real what it considered a real AWS account. We weren't doing anything locally. So that's something I've had to kind of, I guess, fumble my way through, is when to tell it that I'm using a demo environment versus when I want to use real data, because it can get confused with that stuff.
Yeah, and then sometimes if you yell at it too much that it's a prototype, it'll just stub out functions and just return fake data instead of actually implementing it. So it's tough to get that right on the spectrum.
Totally.
Yeah.
That's kind of embarrassing when you're trying to use a real data, because that's one thing that I'm really concerned about. So some of the, when you're actually doing some Salesforce data, when you're trying to do real data, you have to tell it explicitly, do not use fake simulated data. I want to make sure this is accurate.
Yeah.
And that's definitely been a battle I've gone through.
Yeah, that's fun. Cool. So you're still hitting yes, chugging along.
Heavy close. Are you a nice to your AI? Are you kind of like, hey, don't
thank you? I say thank you to my Waymos.
Oh yeah, Waymo. I'm just in Atlanta. It's almost explicitly Waymo.
Yeah, you got to thank them. I know they say they're not listening, but yeah.
It's just good practice to also, when you're peopling, to do the same.
Yeah. Cool. So now here is where I would basically stop if I were going to do something for real, and tell it to set up unit tests, get them all passing locally, and then move straight to commit all of this, get it up on GitHub, spend the time to go get CI and checks working in GitHub. But if you're just YOLOing, you skip that step. It's like this controversy thing now, but I still haven't gotten good results out of the GitHub MCP. And I still just tell it to use the GH CLI instead. But it's pretty good. The GH CLI, and then Claude is pretty good at calling it. Okay. You can create a pull request. It has background tasks now, Claude, so it'll wait. You can tell it to wait for the checks to pass or address any of the checks that it finds. The GH command has a -- watch mode, so you can you'll watch it. It'll just say, watch this PR for the checks to finish, and then it'll review the results, and then it'll fix stuff, and it'll keep iterating until the PR is ready to merge.
So have you run into, because that's where maybe the risk threshold goes up when you start wiring up to GitHub and things like that. Have you run into where it accidentally checks in a .env file or anything like that? Like it doesn't ignore that file? Have you run across where it's tried to do something?
Not like that. I've had it accidentally check in binaries and stuff if I'm working with Go. But it is a Git superhero. It knows all the commands, even though no one knows. And so I had this repo where it checked in a whole bunch of binaries 100 commits earlier, and I saw that the repo was 250 megabytes all of a sudden.
Yeah.
It knew how to go back in time, delete it, and then refresh all of the Git history, with some crazy rebase commands. To strip it, just not just in a Git RM, but to actually remove it from the entire Git repo history.
Okay. Test it. Okay, we're at test. That sounds good. Remove. Okay, prompts. Okay. New project. Now, when I don't have a new environment set up, there's certain things where I know I can just trust it to do. In this case, I should just trust it because we're not doing anything that impacts anything. We're POCing, just let it do its thing. But a lot of times I suppose it keeps a whitelist of what paths that it's allowed to do that thing in. But there's some things that I know I can just walk away, go make a coffee or something like that. And some things are I want to see what you're going to do first.
Yeah.
Okay. There it is. Took it right. Okay. Created a get ignore. All right.
Nice. Well, we're coming up on time here. We got off to a good start, though.
Yeah.
Curious to see if this thing works.
I am too. I really want to see if I can push the button.
I was writing a lot of stuff around the Claude Code SDK because Claude Code has its own SDK where you can call into its functions if you want to wrap it. And it was starting like there were a lot of safety checks early on that I think they somehow relaxed, where like it wouldn't let Claude Code start other Claude codes, which kind of makes sense because like a lot of the permissioning is done at the CLI level. And so if you tell it you're not allowed to write to this directory, and all of a sudden it can go create another Claude code that is allowed to write to that directory, it's just a sandbox bypass. But they've relaxed it. I haven't done anything crazy risky or anything like that. But one of my other hobby projects was like a run Claude code in a container.
Mm-hmm.
I had like a Kubernetes deployment where like it was the same CLI, but instead of running everything locally, it was running in a container in a Kubernetes cluster. So streaming the text back and forth using the SDK for kind of some of those things you were talking about earlier, like, being able to work on your phone. Like it's still got to be able to install Python somewhere and run all of your unit tests somewhere.
Right. Yep. You're right. Yep. Exactly.
Yeah. I had Google has a product called Cloud Run. So mine was, laughably named Claude Run.
Oh, nice. Test and create and S3. I still don't know where did my file explorer go?
Cool. Any other questions or anything?
No, I think this is helpful. Thanks for running through everything, Dan.
Got off to a fun start. Thanks everyone for joining, and happy weekend.
Thanks a lot.